Hello and welcome, Samir. First of all, thank you very much for taking time out on a holiday and speaking to us. We'll just introduce ourselves. My name is Dr. Ashish Ambasta, and my PhD is in the area of happiness. Okay, I've tried to understand what makes people happier at workplaces because throughout my career, I have been going to organizations and trying to understand and talking to employees, are you happy? And most of the time, the answer I get is no, I'm not. Okay, given an opportunity, I would like to do something else, but I don't have an opportunity. So that's why I'm stuck in what I'm doing. So 90% of people, when I ask, given an opportunity to change your career and do something else, would you do that? And they say, yes, I think I will do something else. So I have been, going back to workplaces to really understand what makes people happier. And then I realized that it's a tough topic and it really needs some deep dive. Okay, and that's where I went into understanding this little in depth. And in the process, I also got my PhD done. And then I realized with my knowledge, I should not be an employee anymore. Okay, and I quit my job in midst of my pandemic. And I started this company called HappyPlus with an intention that whatever we do, we will add some happiness to the world. Okay, that's the intention. And we are going back to organizations and telling employees that you should be taking accountability of your own happiness. If you think that your employers will make you happy, then you are going to be for a shock. It's not going to happen. So you have to take responsibility. And according to us, happiness is a habit, and you need to pursue it the way you have your mental habits, physical habits. Similarly, you need to have happiness habit, and you have to do something to get happiness. Okay, so those were the context in which we operate. It's 18 months for us till now, Samir, and the journey has been good. And we have impacted around 60,000 odd people. And we are looking forward to expand our net to make more people happier. I think that's the way I will introduce myself. We have started this show called Happiness in You because happiness in academic circles is known as subjective well-being. There is no word called happiness if you go to academic circles because it's a very fluffy subject. So subjective well-being is what scientists and researchers identify themselves with. And the idea is that happiness means different things for different people. And that's where we said, let's go to different people and understand from them that what exactly happiness means for you. And that's where this concept of happiness in you has come in, where we'd like to understand from people, different walks of life, to come and tell us what does happiness means for you and how do you pursue it? Do you really pursue it? And then different factors like fame, money, your designations, your salary, how exactly it impacts your happiness. And then how do you become self-aware? Idea is to give some nuances to people who might be searching the right definition of what happiness is for them, and then get benefited from the conversation which we have. So that's the idea, Samir, and thank you very much for being our esteemed guest on this show. So for the uninitiated, meet Samir. He is an actor, director, former model, and most importantly for me, an author, right? And the author on a particular subject, his book really caught my attention. The book's titled as My Experiments with Silence, right? And this is an extremely interesting book, right? I will say I have read the reviews and I have bought it today itself, and I'm going to read about this in depth. But the very idea of being silent, as an actor, is something which really caught my attention. Okay, and I thought that we should have this conversation, candid conversation, where we'll talk about in depth that what happiness means for you, what happiness means for people around you, and how do you look at happiness as far as community or the world in which we stay. So I think I will ask few questions in this direction, and I will just be a listener, okay, and just try to absorb things when you talk about that.
Okay.
So let's start with this very very basic question, Samir, that what does happiness means for you?
See, happiness has been a quest for me. I've only probably a few years back, um, I have come to the realization that earlier you always thought that you set a goal for yourself, you achieve the goal, and you'll be happy, which is also what my book does talk about. And I'm also advocating that we seem to put success at this higher podium or platform, that is the be all and end all. Success, however you choose to define it. And we are trained to believe that if you are quote unquote successful, you will be happy. Although there is no direct correlation between one or the other. Right. That I have realized after years and stuff and like that. And what I, even when I talk to my daughter, the thing I tell her most is do what makes you happy. I don't want you to do, and not also, and a lot of people say do what makes you happy and make sure you give it 100%. And to me is why? I mean, what's the big deal about 100 or 70 or 60 or 7, whatever, as long as you're doing what makes you happy. So stop putting pressure on people. So, what I intellectually understand what happiness could be and how I'm trying to find it, because I don't know, like you said, it's extremely subjective and you have to find out where you stand, Somebody once said, and that kind of stuck with me, that happiness is the difference between what you expect the life to be and how the life is quote unquote actually. It is between your perception that this is the way I should feel, and this is the way I should be, or this is the way a day should be, or this is the way the job should be, or this is the way my life should be. And if things happen accordingly, you'll be a happy person because you expected that, right? This is like the most oversimplified definition I ever thought, but I thought it was a good place to start. But if it doesn't work like that, I mean, you're expecting something in a day or in your life to be, and things are not like that, then you kind of get uncomfortable. Happiness is a very, like you said, it's an abstract word, to use. So that to me kind of stuck. I hope through this conversation I can discover myself. I know what is not happen. I mean, to me, the big step is knowing that this is not happiness. This does not equate to happiness, and this is not. So by process of elimination, it's more of a journey of unpeeling and coming to the source and saying, this is it. This is where I belong, and this is what I want. So I always thought being the best at what I do will be the be all end all. Then I realized that, like I raised a question in my book, that is my dream really my dream, or is that the dream I was sold? At childhood, you're sold a dream. That the most thing which gives you kind of validation is coming first in class, being good at a profession, being good. So automatically we are conditioned to believe that if we do really well, that will solve all problems. But it doesn't work like that. So then you also have to re-examine that what people say, I want this, is why do you want it? What is it about that draws you? Maybe these are misplaced belief systems, right? Like in my case, it was acting. I mean, I was extremely shy, extremely introvert growing up, and I discovered acting or theater at a very young age. And that was a place where I could be me, because I could hide behind a character and express myself, right? And that was an outlet for me. It was therapeutic, catharsis. And because I could do that, I was also good at it. And the more you're good at it and you enjoy it, you do it more, right? So that became the answer to everything. That one day I'm just going to do this. At the age of 10, I knew I was going to be an actor. That's what, over 40 years back. And I still have pursued that. But now I know that that is not the only way, and that is perhaps slightly misplaced. So, so that's, but then the further realization is that it becomes, what you do becomes an escape from normal life. You have quote unquote a normal life, which is different in our field compared to what you do. What you do is such a payoff that you don't mind compromising on your quote real life, because the payoff is so high. The gratification is so much more. So yeah, so I mean, it's just about questioning. I don't know if you want to ask me what happiness is. All I can do is I can share my journey in search of happiness and trying to figure out where it is. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it's different for different people. What you do, why you do it, and but I like this concept of expectations and what real life is, which both actually depends on your perception of it. Right?
Yeah.
There is something called reality. I mean, the same reality seen from a
Yeah.
different point of view would be entirely different. So I think self-awareness is critical, but a lot of people say ignorance is bliss. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, um, some people, like, if you were to listen to our conversation, they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I mean, just go. You got money and you got this and you got that. Happy, enjoy yourself,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, look, I tend to ramble, so do correct me and get me
Sure.
back into
Sure.
track, because I don't know
Sure.
where I'm going. So yeah,
Sure.
I don't know if I've answered your question yet, but it's
No,
just
we have started well, I guess. I think there is a lot of misconception about pleasure and happiness. Okay, so pleasure, I think something money can buy, and your senses are involved. That's the way I look at it. Something which is very gratifying for you, good food, good bed to sleep, good place to view to have. So these are pleasurable activities. When we
correct.
talk about joy and happiness, I think it is a little deeper, and it evokes some calmness around you, and you feel that life is how it should be. Like this is where you should be. And one of the things with pleasures is the more you do it, the more you want to do it, and then after some point in time, you realize that you don't want to do it. So it's like if I keep giving you the best food which you love, after a point of time, you don't love it, right? So there is a certain nuances around how we define these two terms. But I would be very curious to know. You said that you started understanding about this, say, a few years back. So why it took you so many years to realize that happiness is something you should pursue?
Ah, look, because I mean, I'm sure if you're not aware, before this, I was in US. I worked on the Wall Street. I was a financial analyst. So, uh, so I grew up thinking I want to be an actor, and that would answer. That will just kind of. That was the answer to all my questions. That was it, because I felt so good doing it. But somehow I got into Wall Street, family pressure or whatever, and I was a financial analyst. And I was living in Manhattan, and I was working in the World Trade Center, and that's the highest paying job I could have got out of college, and I was miserable, right? So I've kind of come towards happiness by way of elimination. So I said,
Mm,
okay, I have this job. It is as good as it gets. Everyone around me seems to think it's fantastic. I am miserable. So obviously there's something wrong. We need to figure this thing out. The only
mm,
thing that's stopping me was, again, the call of acting, because I thought that is the way, right? But obviously I didn't have enough courage. But when I built up enough courage, I chucked my job and I came to Bombay to be an actor. Um, so then it was dealing with this, and also in profession, being able to do something. For example, being able to act, being good at acting, is different from the profession of an actor,
mm,
right? Which I did not know, because nobody in my family really comes from that profession, right?
mm,
So just dealing with that, and my own personality is such that I don't think I'm like tailor made for this industry. But you need to be far more um, people's person, so to speak.
mm,
So I've worked hard and I worked hard and I worked hard and kept saying, okay, hopefully my work is going to speak for itself. It's just that that elusive thing that only if I reach
mm,
here, then it's going to be. And
mm,
so I've kept trying, and until I reached a point, and I said, look, I've pretty much given my entire life pursuing this. I've foregone. I've made a lot of sacrifices unknowingly or knowingly. I made some sacrifices to pursue this end line.
mm,
And is it really worth it? I mean, I had for long, differentiated being successful is very, I don't really care what people say, or, it's so
mm,
subjective. I mean, in the end, you come to the realization, if you're happy, then does it really matter anyone knows you? And if you're unhappy, does it matter if a billion people know you, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so it took me a time. And for example, the question I raise very often when we think of the people who are successful, we come up with names like Michael Jackson, perhaps in entertainment, or Elvis. But look at the life they had. So I tend to talk to people and say, so would you consider Michael Jackson a success story? And they said, yes. I said, but would you want that life? And they would say, no. So then what is going wrong? So obviously, these two words are intertwining. And that is largely, I think, got to do with the environment that is throwing information at us. Right?
Yeah.
And so I still act, but to me, I have my take on this is very different. Earlier, it was that I have to prove a point that I'm good and get ahead so that more doors open. And now it is, I do it because I enjoy it. If it opens doors, very good. If people like it, very good. If they don't like it, well, that's just fine. There's a level of detachment that has come. It's not, me, the actor is everything. I am Samir and I also act. Right? So now in between, now that I've kind of distanced myself a little bit of the emotional attachment to my profession, now I'm left with the question, well, what do I do with myself? I need to figure out there's still, enough time on, in a day or in a week, month. So I am trying different things. I mean, things that I probably would enjoy. And hopefully somewhere along the line, I will kind of come to some kind of an understanding. I think what really happens is I think most people, for knowingly or unknowingly, have been, their view of the world is slightly skewed. Okay? And they go along with that until the next speed breaker that comes and then forces them to reevaluate. So that's, I think, pretty much what it is. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of, going with experiences, being very honest to myself. I mean, I've been into counseling for the longest time, or have, just took an objective opinion, So, a lot of people say that, there's a pursuit of happiness. It is not reaching, but the pursuit of that is what happiness is defined as. And like, it's not the end goal, but the process is important, which I don't know really, because if you don't really enjoy the process, ends can't justify the means. I don't believe so. I mean, it's like saying if a rat is in a wheel, in a lab rat, and he's going round and round, then he should be ecstatic because he's, pursuing this for life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Correct. But I wanted to check with you, Samir, that why all of us take so much of time to realize, because realize that what we are pursuing, thinking that it will make us happier, it does not make us happy. But by the time you realize, you have lost a lot of things. Maybe you have lost your health, your relationships, your sanity. So everything is lost, and then you realize. And then there are a lot of people who have in past have experienced this, and then they say that it doesn't matter. So what is, according to you, stops us from understanding this right in the beginning of our life?
Because we're not taught that. The entire education system worldwide, more so perhaps in places like India and developing countries, is focused on how to survive in this world, how to be one ahead of the person next to you. It doesn't train you anything about self-discovery. It's all outward looking. If you want a good job, you want a good admission in college, do this, da 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 da. Nobody says, who are you? What do you want? How do you see life? Nobody challenges this. Nobody has challenged it so far, because you still again have role models like, like I said, the classic thing is about 100 years back, the role models would be someone like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, or Martin Luther King. Now we talk about Steve Jobs. We talk about people like that whose success is tangible. Happiness is never tangible, right? So we are always sold the end thing. So it's very difficult because I wasn't trained for that. No one's been trained for that. How are you judged? How you will do in class? What's that got to do with you? It is only your ability to apply your mind to something which might have been given to you, which is more long to do with memory. Okay. So I think the whole system is based like that, which never encourages people to discover themselves and say it's okay. Because it's okay as long as you're doing well in school. But that's a formation. And also the fact is what your personality is, in psychology, is pretty much determined by the time you're 7 or 8. You've already formed a roadmap for your life.
Yeah.
So if your roadmap is, I am rewarded by my parents if I do well in class, I get love and affection, or my teachers praise me, friends look up to me, therefore this is the way to go. So, but then by that time, after that, 10, 15, 20, it's so ingrained in you that you can't think otherwise. It takes a monumental effort to deprogram yourself. So that's where I think it's at. And even if you look at the other paths, so to speak, spirituality and stuff like, which is always is considered as an alternative barometer for happiness and success.
Yeah.
But even in there, the end result is sold to you. That there is a competition even in the field of happiness, right? That is, to be happy, you must do these 7 things. To be happy, you must do 8 things. I mean, how to be more happier? There's a classic example which I read in a book by J. Krishnamurti, which was, kind of was fascinating that how he used to have discourses and basically discussion with his students or followers, so to speak. One person who had quit his job in US and had come to stay in the ashram with him and given up materialistic life and was living like, pretty much as any normal person, doing his meditation, doing this, doing that. So after a couple of years, he approaches Krishnamurti and says, listen, I have spent 2 years following this whole program that you have. Okay. I do my meditation. I do this. I have nothing to do with the outside world and stuff. But I just feel all the juices have been sucked out of me. I don't really feel anything. So is it because of me? Because I lack something? Is it because of your teachings are not right? Or is it about you? That the way you have imparted your teachings is not correct? What is the issue? Why have I not achieved that so-called moksha and salvation in this thing? And Krishnamurti said a profound thing. He says, because you haven't really moved. He says, in US, you thought if you became a more successful banker, you'd be happy. Now you think if you attain moksha, then you'll be happy. So you have just replaced the B points. But the basic principle is that if I do this, then I'll be happy. You haven't changed.
Yeah.
And he says a very profound thing that every road on the map is the wrong road. But the moment you realize that the road is wrong, you're automatically on the road. As long as this is what I believe, as long as you think if I do these things, I'm going to be happy and and I keep happiness as somewhere a separate goal to be achieved, maybe I'm making a mistake. I don't know for sure, but maybe I am.
So one of the data points I was reading, about the suicides, number of people dying, especially students in the 15 to 29 year of age bracket. India is one of the highest contributor of suicides in that particular segment. And it in 2020, 34 people took their life every hour. I'm talking about students. What do you think can help them? What advice or what statement you will make if they are listening, if this group of people is listening to this conversation? What's the message you would like to give them?
God, that's like a it's a tough question, because when you are in a position which basically when people are pushed to the point they want to kill themselves, which means that life, living and breathing is more painful than death, because that is still unknown.
Yeah.
So wherever they are is not what they want to be, you know. So only then they're pushed towards it, because the future doesn't look bright or it's bleak. And my only thing is a rather simple thing: is hang in there. Tomorrow's going to come, and who knows what tomorrow's going to bring. Just hang in there. And I think that that has been my mantra. I mean, the times I've gone through bad phases and good phases and stuff, the only thing I've told myself: hang in there. It's okay. All right. You know, it will go through. You will survive it. You know, and the same works for when things are going good. Hang in there, because the bad stuff will also come. So I think, I mean, I know it's easier said than done. I mean, I haven't been in that position, but I would only imagine that that is, I mean, if you are to you reach to the point saying, I do not want to live, that means there is no hope for things to be any better, any different than what they are. And my only answer is hang in there. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring. You never know. Like I said, you know, there's just, you know, if you have a long dark night, what it really takes is one ray of the sun to break that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I think, and also that I would also say that it's not your fault. It's not your fault you are where you are. Don't be too harsh on yourself. It is not your fault. Trust me. It takes a lot more to make you than just you. You are just a function of your genetics and nurturing. So don't be so harsh on yourself. I think whatever it is, it shall pass. I mean, I know that's being rather philosophical, but there is nothing else you can say, I believe.
So we also know, Samir, that our brain is built in a manner in which it attracts negativity. So 3/4 of our brain's neurons are consistently looking for something negative, and it takes some effort for you to catch positivity and stay with it. Right? That's what science says. Now, in that context, what's the advice you will give to people to
See,
surround themselves in negativity?
okay, here's my stand on this. My stand is that if you take brain and say, what's the function of the brain, right? Uh, to me, from what I understand, the sole purpose of the brain is to protect. If you didn't have brain, you would not be able to function, store memories, project a future based on the memories. So your sole purpose of the brain is to protect you. If something's gone wrong 2 times, the 3rd time is about to happen, brain says, hey, watch it might go wrong. The negative thoughts are what? So and so will not do right to me. All right. This will go wrong. Right. Why? Because that's what the past experience have taught you. Okay. Which may or may not have anything to do with the next moment. It's only the probability is high. Okay. So to me, that's the job of the brain, and you are not your brain. It's a part of you, perhaps the most important part, or one of the most important parts. But its job is to protect you. But you can't base your life based on the suggestions given by the brain. But then you will not do anything. Okay? And when I write my experiments with silence, that was the idea. I wanted to experience it and say that, am I my brain? So so when you keep quiet, what happens is normally you'll have a zillion thoughts going in your mind, which causes anxiety, causes this. I don't know anything about meditation. Honestly, I do not know. So what I would do, I would just sit quietly and just not react to the thought I was having. The thought could be, hey, let's go on, check Instagram, watch TV, pick up a magazine. It's very easy to say. I mean, I started off with putting a clock in front of me for half an hour and said nothing. I'm just going to stare at the clock. I'm not going to control my mind, let my mind go wherever. I'm just not going to react to it. And as a result of that practice, the thoughts would come, the urges would come and go. For example, I would play a game that I have this urge to call up my friend. I said, okay, hang in there. Let's wait for some time. And once the urge goes away, then you do it. As a result, what happens is the brain kind of understands that you are the boss. I might give a billion thoughts in you that do this and don't do this, but he's going to pick and
Mhm.
choose what he wants to do.
Amazing. Yeah.
So that is what I do. So what happens is that if I have an issue, I probably will not talk to anyone because I know the resolution lies inside me. I just have to wait for my mind to settle down and know what the decision to take. So you are
Mm.
not a reactive person. So
Mm.
I'm not much for negativity and positivity. That's the job of the brain. You can't hold it against him. But
Mm.
if you base your existence, your survival, your living, your joy and happiness on something which is only there to protect you, you'll never be happy. How can you be happy? Because the brain's going to warn you about anything and everything that can go wrong. That's his
Mm.
job.
Mm.
It's up to you to pick and choose when you listen to the brain and when you say, okay, listen, I know you're doing your job, but I need to do
Mm.
it. Even though I'm scared, I need to do this. So that's what I believe in. And yes, I stay away from negativity, not for any other reason. It just drains my energy source. I mean, to me, my source of energy, it saps you of energy because people have their own insecurities, their own fears, their own anxieties. And I don't want that. I'm like, okay, whether I'm living my wife says I live in a bubble, but I pick and choose what comes close to me. What doesn't, sorry, I don't want to be
Mm.
part of that. So that's what my take is. So yeah, I mean, I know I hear about it, positive thinking or being positive, da 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 da. I don't know if that can be consciously done. Maybe some people are programmed. It can be done. I don't know. Extremely
Mm.
subjective. As far as I am concerned, this is my mantra. This is what I have learned. That I hang in there. Wait. Okay. All right. No, let's then take it. There is no rush. Not to be a reactive person. That is, I think, the key. So that's my experience. I'm not saying it's gospel truth.
But I think I get you what you're saying. I think it's a very simple formula, but I think it can make a lot of difference to all of us because we are driven by our urges, right? Let's play a game, let's go out, let's drive a car, let's do this, and you are constantly being told by your mind that do this because mind shows that it is the master. But then you take a pause and say I don't want to do this, and then you are reflecting to somebody that I'm in control. I think it's a very simple formula, but I think it's very, very powerful one.
And also, what happens? Eventually, the brain gives up. Brain kind of slows down.
Yeah.
Because he knows that he's no longer in control, right? So
Yeah.
it's like there's this, why isn't he doing this? Now, what if this goes wrong? Hey, what about this goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
And once you have that, then brain is like I said, it's there for your survival. It's just there for survival,
Yeah.
and it can never it can protect you. It can never make you happy. Brain can never make you happy. A conscious brain, at
Yeah.
least. Some people talk
Yeah.
about the frontal cortex and the subconscious
Yeah.
mind and all that. I'm not trained in that. I can't speak about that, but I take the whole thinking process, instinctive process, and saying, hey, the thinking
Yeah.
process kind of is overdone.
Yeah. Uh, I also wanted to check with you, Samir, this very notion of taking accountability of your own happiness. Because at workplaces, especially, and I would like you to comment on that. When I go and talk to people at workplaces, they say, my boss is not good, my company does not give me enough salary, I am overworked, my colleagues are not good. So you will always see that your problems are being always focused outwards, right? Nowhere you say that even I can be in the center of creating those situations which makes me unhappy. How important is for people to take ownership of their own happiness at all point of time, especially at work and in your personal life?
See, when you say take ownership of your own happiness, I mean, I think at every given point in our life, we do the best we can do given the environment we're given. Okay. I also believe in a lot of personality issues. I mean, people have a certain personality, have certain issues, who within that environment cannot function.
Mm.
So I would not wholly say, hey, man, you're a sheep living in with a lion, and I expect you
Mm.
to be very calm. You're not going to be calm.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. So I think that it could be possible that you are not where you need to be. I would be as simple as that. I would not go into the extent and say that, okay, look, you're passing the buck on someone else. True, true. That could be the superficial thing, but deep down it's probably something far more different. That's the easy way out, because you don't have. It's easy to project and say, "Hey, because of you." The point is, if you take that thing away, would you still be happy? Chances are not. That is you, whatever inherent thing that's making you unhappy. Maybe you want to be in a position of more control, more power, and you see the immediate conflict coming from your boss. So you will aim everything at him and say, because of you. Okay? He is probably a symptom. Right? But
Okay.
the disease could be far deeper, which could be as simple as that you're doing the wrong thing for the wrong reason. You're in the wrong environment. Like I was in investment banking, a financial analyst. I wasn't equipped for it. That's not my personality. I am a believer in, like, a bird has to fly and fish has to swim. A bird can't tell a fish that, how to swim better. So I'm a firm believer in that at least the decision you make, where you want to go, if you're doing it for the wrong reason, you say, oh, okay, if I do this, I'll make more money and I'll get more promotion, you will be miserable. But that's because you had a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah.
I don't think, personally, taking ownership, it's you need to question yourself why you're doing what you're doing before you kind of say it's because of this boss and that boss. And maybe some people like to be in a position where they are in a smaller organization, but in a more controlling position. Okay. And this could have even psychological reasons. Some people don't like being told what to do and they're forced to do it. But they must do this because of that, they want to get what they want. I don't like this job. I have a brother who is, I remember when I was working as a financial analyst, I was miserable. So my brother was like, I said, I want to go back acting. And he was in America as well. And he's also a finance person. And he was like, yeah, but how can you quit this job? People will die to be in your position. How can you do this? I said, I'm not happy. He said, but then the discussion became so ridiculous that it came to the point that who told you you're supposed to be happy? Job is what you do from Monday to Friday so you can be happy on Saturday and Sunday. And I said, no, that's not my definition. Okay.
Yeah.
To me, it was very clear, and I was lucky because I was given this opportunity or this experience very early in my age. I was in early 20s. That when I was miserable at my job, and I asked myself, what do you want to do? What do you want in life? Okay, let's examine this. And my answer was very simple, and still in that. I want to do something that I wouldn't mind doing even if I wasn't paid to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Something that will keep me up all night looking forward to tomorrow. That's a profession. At a personal level, I would want a life partner and maybe family or friends who I can share my joys and sorrows with, my ups and downs with. That's life. There is nothing more to it. We can complicate it by this and that and this and that. Oh, I want this and I want this. But if you keep going back to the deeper reason, it says, why? Maybe it's just because you're living up with the Joneses. It's because the culture is such.
Yeah.
So self-introspection is so bloody important. Like you said, in that sense that before you point a finger at somebody else, you probably need to look at yourself. Maybe, you're not the kind of guy who, because I refuse to make a value judgment. Some people, for some people, something works. For some people, something works. So this thing would be anyone who's unhappy at the job and blames the boss is to re-examine, re-evaluate why he's doing what he's doing. If the reason he's doing it because it's going to get him somewhere else, then you made a deal with the devil. There will be a give and take. You're compromising on your happiness, but then that's the decision you've taken. And then it's up to you whether you want to be courageous enough and say, hey man, I do not want that. I'm not willing to pay the price for that. Like I had a big thing about people who are networking, people who network and schmooze and this and that. I had a little game, man, come on, how can you do that? And I kind of looked down upon them. And then I realized, no, that is the ability God gave them. They can do it. So do not make a virtue of something you can't do. So you accept that You can do it. Good for you. But I know I can't do it, so I will not look down upon you, nor will I go somewhere where that's where it's going to be valued. Right? If I'm
Yeah.
talking to you right now, it's because I know if I'm talking to you is something I can relate to. If this was going to be another interview talking about how to be a millionaire, fastest way, I would probably say, look, I can't talk about this. That's not the place I want to be. I don't,
Yeah.
that's me. So yeah, that's, I think pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah. And coming to the topic on which you have written your book, okay, why silence is so much underrated, and why people not think about being quiet?
Firstly, because everyone doesn't need to. Because the byline of my book is my experiment with silence, Diary of an Introvert. I believe biologically some people are differently wired. Okay. And this is actually research, there's a scientific research that how an introvert is wired in mentally
Yeah.
wired is far different from where the extrovert is wired, which is to say that from the point of how the path the neurons take is far more longer and deeper for an introvert. An introvert is probably better at taking one thing and going deeper into it. An extrovert probably would be good at managing 10 different things, but at a superficial level. Both have their own place. Okay. And for that matter, an extrovert doesn't necessarily need to explore silence to that degree. Because we do by and large live in an extroverted world. That is the way it is. That's the card that's been dealt out. We live in an extroverted world. We admire bravery and courage and strength and power and flash and money and this and that. So it's for an introvert, you're starting at the wrong foot. Right? If you can't be social and stuff like that and you're awkward, then people say, oh, he's not good until you show your worth. So for me, especially a person who, and also if you notice, some people are very perceptive to energies. Like an empath would be very sensitive to the other person's energy. Some people will bounce that energy. That's just the nature. For example, if you take one extrovert, one introvert, both go to the same party, both will maybe have a reasonably good time. One will come back rejuvenated, saying, man, tomorrow I'm going to take it on. The other, like me, would say, oh God, that was a long day. I want to be in my pajamas. It's going to suck every ounce of energy out. So silence is nothing, but you're cutting off the external factors and getting in because that is where the source of energy is for you. But that cannot be for an extrovert. The extrovert needs that 100 people together, like 300, and saying, we are gladiators, which is fine. You can be that. But as long as you know who you are and know and understand, therefore, that you'll be more inclined towards this, it's not a surprise. But if a bird constantly tries to swim, say, I want to swim, it's never going to swim. And will hold itself responsible for that. Right? So identifying who you are, what your personality is a big thing. And silence comes with the territory. And I've realized that I need to shut everything off. That's how I can function. So, yeah, that's, again, my take. I don't know.
But is it so black and white, Samir, that you are introvert or extrovert? Because I always feel that you also have a midway, that sometimes I'm a very introvert guy, but then at situations you'll find me very extrovert. And then sometimes, so what's happening there?
To what I've read and understood, introversion and extroversion are the two extremes of the same spectrum. Most people will lie a little more here, left of center or right of center, or closer to the end, one end to the other. So that's what you are. And introverted, we kind of say extroverted as in people talking too much, right? We kind of translate that as extroversion. No, that's not true. Introverts like to talk. The only thing is their source of energy is within. So I might have a wonderful conversation, enjoy the party, but when I go home, I might have used a great tank of my energy in that time. Whereas an extrovert probably would have replenished. So it's nothing like, introvert is not like I don't like talking to people or not like that. It's just that it's made of basically managing your energy levels. That's
Yeah.
where it is.
It's very interesting. I got to understand this very clearly now. So you are saying introvert does not mean that you don't want to talk. It's just that where you are getting your energies from, and for most of the
Yes.
introvert, it's from within. Is what you're
Right.
saying.
So for an extrovert, when they're in group, will rev up each other's energies. But for introvert, needs that little time on their own. And once the energies are full, they might be more extroverted than an extrovert. But then they would have used more energy. So you have to use your energy carefully and saying, oh, okay, all right, this is good. So it's not cliched how people think, an introvert is just sitting with a book all the time and doesn't want to talk.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen like that. It's
And tell us at least 2 or 3 reasons why everybody should buy this book and read it. Because what value it will add to, say, for I am an extrovert, I don't need to be silent, right? So what do I do with this concept?
oh, why should you buy the book? I think it's an
I'm just
interesting.
talking about an
Sure, sure, sure.
hypothetical question that why should one read this book? What are the 2 things I will
Well,
get out of it?
I think this book is unique in the sense that most people, when they write about their experiences,
Hmm.
they write in hindsight. This is what
Okay.
happened. Okay, so you are seeing a far more well-rounded, you know, well smoothened out thought process. Most of my book is me going through the process of silence and dealing with what's happening. So while I was writing, I was in silence, and that was the only luxury I allowed myself.
Okay.
So no
Okay.
TV, no meeting friends. So whatever I was saying, I said, okay, just write it down. Don't talk. So that took me to places of childhood, took me to this, took me to that. And I would just say, how do you feel today? And I would write. So it's actual my diary. It has pages, authentic, real pages that were written 10 years back when I was going through a process. So that's one thing is good. So that you have actually authentic thing. And a lot of people will say, hey man, I felt like that. So second thing is also you will find relatability because things like fear of the unknown, being accepted, being loved, these are basic needs we have or desires. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you have the desire. You will understand the need for the desire. You might approach it differently. So here it's me telling you it's okay. You're not the only one because I am a more of a in a position where people still might who know me from my work will say so when they see that even this guy who's supposed to be this happy guy and successful and whatever blah blah he can feel like this, so it's okay. That's okay if I feel like that also. And finally, we are always sold the end result. No one talks about process. We're sold the end result as in how to become a millionaire. A millionaire will tell you how I became a millionaire. But they're selling you a millionaire's life, in which he's happy, he's got a yacht, he's got this, he's got that, right? Then you have the other spectrum, people who kind of have reached this kind of higher awareness. They're selling you the level of peace. 7 steps to be happy, 7 steps to be peaceful, okay? But like for someone to say, hey, you must meditate every day for 1 hour, well, it's easier said than done, right? So me saying you should do that is like, yes, that's what everybody says. But me feeling and struggling with it is what will make you relate more. So I am not telling you, I'm not preaching anything. I'm not saying you should or you should not maintain silence. I'm not saying you should or should not be materialistic. I'm just sharing my journey. And I have a decent journey. I mean, in every sense of the word, materialistically speaking or otherwise. So I'm just sharing with you and take it for what it's worth. One thing is that it's probably the most honest book ever written. There is not a word I've minced. I mean, it is what it is. So I think that's it. I think it plays a very, very important role in a world in which everybody is selling you success and happiness and not sharing with you the struggles with it. Right? That's
Correct.
why I think it is. So it's not going to be preachy. That's for sure.
Correct. Yeah, and absolutely. The new generation doesn't want any preachings. They want to understand and relate to people who have gone through the path. So absolutely. Now, I think we have spoken for around 50 minutes, Samir, and it feels that we have just started, but I am aware of your time. So I will just ask you a couple of more questions and I will stop there. One is life throws a lot of difficulties on you, right? It's not easy. and most of the time you are struggling in wherever you are, even the highest spectrum of your society or at the lowest one, you are struggling.
Right.
How do you deal with these struggles on a day-to-day basis and still be happier?
For me, I can't again will not generalize. Uh, I keep a distance from Okay, let me just put it a different way, put it a little interesting way. So if you're in a boat, okay, and you're going on the sea, now sea gets rough, okay. Now there are two, three ways of dealing with it. You row it harder, okay. You can enjoy the ups and downs, like, whoa, it's going down, whoa, it's going up. If you can do that, if you have the strength, you manage it.
Yeah.
Or you can just say, it doesn't really matter. It's okay. It doesn't exist. It's not there. What goes up must go down. Right? So each individual will deal with it in their own strength way. Right? Because you say slow and steady wins the race, correct? You
Yeah.
believe in that? Do you think a rabbit or the hare who's supposed to run fast would survive one day in the jungle if he was slow and steady?
Not really.
No. He wasn't equipped for it. He wasn't born for that. We are not equals. We're all different with different kinds of strengths and weaknesses, and you have to work with your own strength and figure out what it is. I mean, everybody has these cliche ways of one fits all. It doesn't work like that. How do? I detach. I detach myself from the outcome. I do what I do, and I realize that the moment I get too attached to something, it hurts me if things won't work out. So that is my answer. Some people probably are good at, hey, let's push the boundaries. Like you can say in boxing, some people are good at hitting, and some guys are good at getting hit. So what are you good at? So me is to maintain my detachment and my space and my silence. The inner silence has to be there for me. As long as I can sustain that, I'm good.
And the last question, Samir, I think this is where I would like to draw your attention and everybody's attention to, that most of the time when we talk about happiness, it's about me, myself, right? And what research shows us, and a lot of white papers which I have read also talks about philanthropy, being altruistic, and trying to make somebody else happier brings a lot of happiness to you. So where in this equation, like, but then question is that you cannot give something which you don't have, right? So if you're unhappy, can you still make somebody happy, right? What's your take on this?
Uh, my take on this, again, fairly cynical. I come from a very cynical point of view because I would question everything. Uh, Maybe doing something, philanthropy or helping someone. But in my case, also, if I help someone, I feel good. You know. But if you look deeper, then why do I feel good? Is it because at that from that moment in time, I felt good about myself because I was able to be in a position to impart and make somebody's life better, which can be ego gratifying as well. Or do I feel good about myself saying, hey, I'm a good man because I was told as a childhood, philanthropy is good and I'm doing that, right? That might be making me feel good, right? So it's or it might take my mind off my own issues and focus on somebody else's issues. Like how a psychologist will always probably feel quite good about himself after seeing about 10 patients who are all crying. He'll say, man, my life is pretty good. you know, thank God I'm not in his shoes. I don't know. It's,
Yeah.
I do it. I try to help people out. I can't say that. I mean, it makes me feel good, but is it because it's my ego that says, "Hey, man, I'm good"? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. I mean, like again, I said, it's all perceptions because the possibilities are infinite. I don't think there's anything intrinsically that I would think of that one can say. And like you said, there is nothing called being selfless. Even if you're doing something good, you are getting something in return, which is the joy of doing it. And which doesn't mean that's wrong. But that also does not mean that doing that act by itself in absolute is good. Is going to make somebody happy. I don't know. So,
Yeah. Amazing. I think one of the things I can definitely say about you, that this conversation is extremely candid, extremely unlike celebrity interview. where you talk about an individual, about it as a human being, and things which all of us are struggling with, but we don't know where the answer is. And I think self-help has become one of the most profitable business, but I'm not sure how many it is, actually being helped by it. So I think conversations like this, people like you, are, according to me, are crusaders in the right direction. Where if we pick up few nuances from what we discussed, I think it can make a lot of difference to all of us. So very, very heartfelt thanks to you, Samir, for finding time and talking to us, talking to me so candidly. And I'm sure today it was virtual. One day we will meet in person. That will
Absolutely.
make me happier.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ashish. Thank you for the opportunity.